Hey everyone, so today we're going to have a look at Ableton's drum rack, which is an intuitive tool that many producers use to start creating loops and beats. So the way it works is it's a grid-based tool that is built up of chains, and each of those chains has its own signal path, and from there you can add on what plugins you want and however you wish to edit the audio. So we're just going to have a look at how to quickly get started on one, and to do this I would recommend, well, for the basics, just making two different drum racks. One for your kicks and the others for everything else like your hats and snares. Although I would probably recommend making a separate one for your snares, just in case you do wish to use compressors and sidechains later on. Just that it does save CPU power. So we'll just look at this quickly. I've got a little 16-bar loop here of sound, just so what we're making will make a bit more sense. So it sounds a bit like this. Alright, so let's bring a drum rack up. I'll copy this little section of kicks here. Okay, so as we can see on this little window here at the corner, bottom left, I have dragged in 3 different kicks just because each one is just tuned to a different pitch, and it does follow the root notes of the little sound sample I have. So if I play each one, we've got very subtle differences, but it makes a difference. So after I've selected my 3 kicks and I've put them in here, the next step would be, of course, after we have decided on a tempo and whatnot, to decide where in the piece we actually want them to appear. So right now I've got the first kick playing at the beginning of the first bar, and then again at the second bar. And there's one more part to that in which the third kick will briefly appear. So that's just something very simple. And one thing you can see in here is that on another track I did have sub bass, and I've sidechained that to the drum rack I have labelled kicks. Now what's good about this is, instead of having to sidechain to each individual kick, I was just able to sidechain to this whole drum rack because it is essentially just the same thing, which is kicks. Now let's bring in some of the tops. Now if we look at some of the sounds used in this one, it is just a bit of texture, and I'll solo this actually, just so we can see how it looks. So something very, very simple. It is spacious. If I go through each of these sounds, there's a little hat there. there's a stick hit and a click, and at the very end of that little loop you would have heard a more hard-hitting snare, which is an actual snare, coupled with this basement sample snare I found. And then the last one is a bit more texture. So I would say the first step for me personally when I'm writing and using drum rack is starting off with a kick and a snare and just deciding where I want them placed, and then trying to find weirder samples that just help to differentiate it from other stuff I've heard, and from then I can add in any hats I want just to give it a bit more stability, not have it so fragmented. So if I solo that with the kicks, sounds like this now. So as you can see, it starts to make a bit more sense. And so on this pink drum rack here, we can see that's obviously what I use for everything else, and the blue kicks. Also, it does help to name your drum racks, but I'm a bit guilty of forgetting to do that. So yeah, name your stuff. Now if we just want to give that a go with the sample, because I always find, well, most people I would imagine would be the same, is it's easier to write when you know what you're writing to. And the good thing about drum rack is you can essentially, because of Ableton's intuitiveness, you can literally just loop everything, keep changing parts of the MIDI in the drum rack to this business here, and just keep going until you find something that you enjoy. So we get this. We'll take it off solo. And I'll just paste this up there because that's what the compressors are on. So yeah, that's what you can end up with. And so if I'm to summarize what I've said, so step one would be to create your drum rack, then find the samples you like. So if you're just a beginner, I would recommend, a kick and a snare first, and then, maybe moving on to hats next. And from then on, I would also then recommend finding a little, or creating your own little sample that you like, and try writing a beat over it, see how you go. And yeah, that's it. It's pretty simple stuff once you get the hang of it, so.